Well, hey, how's everyone doing this evening? This is Bob Gums bringing you the Concerned Forum. Um, for those of you who have become familiar with this show, I had taken several days off. We had some family things to take care of, and to tell you the truth, I was kind of tired. Um, Keeping up with what's going on back in the States, because I live here in Uganda since I've been married here, and don't worry, I'm still a registered voter, U.S. citizen, um, but I'm living here in Uganda, married to a very very nice Ugandan lady, and it's cool. It's really good. Really cool. I like it. But I'm still an American, and when I look across the ocean at what's going on back home. I'm a native New Yorker, by the way. I'm from Harlem and the Bronx. Okay. So when I look back across what's going on in the country right now, and really be honest about it, it turns my stomach. I also have to say that I'm a military veteran. So a lot of the things that I see and the way that I see the military being abused, um, that really, how should I say, that hurts me. Uh, Let me see, what else? Listen, eh, take a look at the show, and I hope that you would subscribe to it. Um, all I can really say at this point is that the concern form is just simply me giving my opinion. I guess that makes me what do they call it in fancy mainstream media? Political commentator. Mm. Well, yeah, I guess that's what I am. Um, I used to have a studio when I was back in New York. I used to be associated with Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and when I came over here, um, well, let's say I'm really starting from scratch. Okay, it's just me and my computer. But I hope that folks listen to what I have to say. I have some experience. I spent almost half my time in the Navy associated with the Defense Intelligence Agency, um, known as DIA, uh, with connections to NSA, CIA, OMB, so on and so forth. So I think, and I would never call myself an expert, but I think I got a general idea of American foreign policy over the last kind of what 40 years. Um, Unlike people like what's that clown's name? Stephen Smith. The other guy, what's his name? The Breakfast Club or Breakfast Show. Charmaine the God or whatever. Those who have absolutely no idea of what they're talking about. So here, you get my opinion, okay? And all those lackeys out there working for Trump or the what's his name, the so-called Attorney General. This is my opinion, okay? Uh, I'm an American veteran, and I reserve the right to express my opinion if I'm in the Bronx, or if I'm in London, or if I'm on the freaking moon. So That's just life. Don't like it, then you burn up the Constitution if you can, right? So, let me see now. I ask you all for support, and I also want to get your comments. I don't care if they're positive or negative. I just want to know what you think, because I'm going to definitely tell you what I think. Okay? Remember, as Americans, we have a right to our opinion. Okay, first thing, let me say um, the sadness I feel upon hearing about the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. Uh, just like many of us, Rob Reiner was a big part of our lives in the 70s. He was the meathead on Archie Bunker. He was the guy that, I don't know, he had kind of a philosophy. And a lot of times he was able to make old Archie stop and think about his bigotry and hard-headedness. And that's why he's one of my heroes. And of course, he had Gloria there, who was Archie Bunker's daughter, and she married the meathead, right? And the two of them were a quite formidable team. And I think the thing that was so great about that show is that it was real. Um, because I've known, hey, I'm a native New Yorker. I've known people like Archie Bunker my entire life growing up. And I grew up in the western part of Harlem around Columbia University. And I've known folks like the Meathead for a very big part of my life. So every time I used to look, like during the 70s, every time I used to look at All in the Family, it's like, hey, it's like I'm at home, in the neighborhood. I know that outside of New York, a lot of my Caucasian brothers and sisters, so-called out in the heartland, they got this idea that Harlem, right, is like just a one area where you just have nothing but black people and some Latinos. No, no, no. You got white folks in Harlem, okay? Been there since the century before last, right? Although the population is predominantly black and then, Hispanic or Latino, excuse me. But New York is like that. And I think that that's one of the things that makes New York such a beautiful place. And I always tell people that, when I was in the military and, being overseas, and they would ask about America and what have you, I would tell them, hey, New York is the most American city in the country. Because that's when, America is what New York is about. And New York is what America is all about. Different groups of people coming over here, and they talk about the American dream. I don't know, I don't like to use that term dream, because dreams are just that. But people came over to this country for a whole bunch of different reasons. And I really wish that they would start teaching this in the schools, right? Some people came over here, some people did come over here for God. Most people came over here for gold and glory and land. So, you know, all kinds of people. You got Ben Franklin in the 1750s complaining about the amount of Germans coming into Pennsylvania, right? So anti-immigrant feelings, it's nothing new, right? Now everybody knows that most black people, excuse me, that most people who were lynched in the 19th century, especially after the Civil War, especially after Reconstruction, most of those people were black. But they also, quite a few Mexican Americans, Chinese, Italians, and a few Irish, um, but especially Italians and blacks, they were lynched. They had the big race riot in Louisiana, was it 1891? I think in one shot, they swung like 9 Italian guys. Why? Because the Italians, by the governor of Louisiana at that time, the Italians were considered to be a criminal element. Some, I don't want to use the term redneck because there's a reason why that term developed. Um, but some southern Louisiana sheriff got shot, okay? And they wanted to blame Italians, and they did. And the white Protestant elements of Louisiana, they went apeshit. And they started grabbing Italians, burning up Italian neighborhoods, and swinging Italians from lampposts. And I say that now. Most lynching is generally it's associated with black folks, especially in the South and in rural America, and that is correct. But there were, like I said, I'm trying to point out that there were occasions when other groups, um, unfortunately, met the same fate. This is the American story that I don't, they don't want to teach in schools. They don't want to teach about black folks being lynched, um, but especially they don't want to teach about, for example, some Irish and you know Italians who were lynched by the white Protestant masses. And this does not help us as a nation because, well, you know what happens when you cover up a wound with dirt, it's infected, it gets more and more infected, right? And you take away the chance of people having any real knowledge. Like we look around now and we see Donald Trump and we see these lunatics, MAGA, and these other assholes with a turning point, and we say, where did this all come from? It didn't come from anywhere. It came from here. It came from America. It came from the so-called heartland. Now, I'm not, believe me, I'm not one of those black Americans that, they're on an anti-immigrant kick because I feel that black Americans that talk that bullshit are as ignorant as hell. And they also contribute to part of the problem that we have now here in the United States. Um, the problem with that is that the majority culture here in America, what they do, and they do this systematically. I mean, I'm living here in Africa, and I see this. They, I don't know, what is it with America that we have certain groups or power centers that feel that they must divide people. See? And just like, look, they tell Africans, oh, well, you can't trust some black Americans, so when you go over to America, you have to avoid them. They said the same thing to Latinos, right? And the Latino culture, it's not, how should I say, it's not just one solid culture. It's indigenous Americans, it's Spaniards, and it's African, right? Some places very much so, some places a little less. Oh, by the way, you know how come we got the whole Southwest after that bullshit Mexican American War? Do they teach in schools that the Mexican American War, when the hell was that? Back in the 1840s? Uh, and the whole thing with Texas, it was about slavery, man. The Mexican people that, they didn't want to go for that because you got to remember something. Now, Mexico, in the process of chasing out the Spaniards, their first, no, it's not the first president, their second president was a black slash indigenous guy who fought the Spaniards and chased them out of Mexico. See, that was like in the what, 18 teens or early 1820s. So when you had these folks from Kentucky and Tennessee wanting to go to Mexico get land, right, and they wanted to bring their slaves, yeah, there was bound to be trouble. And that, my friends, is how the Mexican War started. It was provoked. I think the president at that time was Polk, and he wanted that turf. He wanted that territory. As a matter of fact, he wanted all of Mexico. But I tell you, it's a funny thing. He set up a situation that would cause the conflict, which it did. And if you think I'm lying, read some of the writings of General, then President Ulysses S. Grant, and read about a certain young congressman from Illinois named Abraham Lincoln, who also said that this whole Mexican American War thing it's phony, right? It was about slavery. Now, I will say one thing as I give out my opinion. Anytime if you disagree, boom, tell me, but then do research, right? I would prefer you do the research first, and then you come back and tell me if I'm full of wild blueberry muffins, okay? But yeah, that's what the whole Mexican American War thing was about. And I got something else for you. America at that time probably would have taken all of Mexico. But you know how come that didn't happen? You had too many um, white American Protestants. Texas was enough as far as they were concerned. Actually take it from Mexico proper. Now, they were quite happy taking California, was it Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona. Um, yeah, New Mexico, Arizona, spots like that. All that, all the Southwest. But they didn't want to take all of, Mexico proper because they felt that Mexico was a bastardized culture and that they did not want to try to absorb uh, Latino, African, indigenous Catholics into white America. Now, like I said, look up all the congressional debates and all that good stuff. It's there for anyone to see. Okay? So sometimes we get shocked and horrified. We see ICE, snatching kids out of nursery schools, beating American citizens because they're brown, right? Throwing them in the back of vans and all this other bullshit, right? However, this is not new, okay? Or I should say, the impetus behind this is nothing new. That's why I say America is like a long running cancer patient. And a long running cancer patient that refuses to get treatment. We need to get treatment for a problem. Uh, Just like this nonsense about MAGA, make America great again. No, that was never the case. America has done some great things, right? In spite of itself. But and I think that's the way Lincoln saw it. We are a work in progress. And see, that's why this whole MAGA nonsense is exactly that. It's pure nonsense. Okay? If you have ever read a decent history book, you would know that. I think Americans were more aware of that back in the 60s than they are now. So, so much for that. But as I was saying, my heartfelt sympathies uh, to Rob Reiner and his wife. I don't know, looking at the son as being the perpetrator, that's horrendous. But addiction, not just drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and psychological problems. Hey man, you got a lot of dudes sitting up in Congress, a lot of men and women sitting in Congress that have that problem in their home. Mm. And that's why my next statement about Trump, and right now I plead guilty. What do they call that bullshit on the right? Trump derangement syndrome? Yeah, I got it big time. You destroy, you work to destroy my country. To tell me that I'm less than a human being because of the color of my skin. You work overtime to divide my white neighbors against me. You let Americans lay out in the freaking street because they don't have health care, right? You let them starve and all this other, all this crazy stuff. You want to basically turn America into some kind of mad dictatorship where we go down to Latin America and the Caribbean and kill people for no reason. I don't hear this bullshit about, some fentanyl. Number one, fentanyl doesn't come out of Venezuela, okay? Every idiot knows that. Well, apparently there's a couple of exceptions to that, my last statement there. But, everybody knows that, that's not, Venezuela is not a fentanyl place, number one. And then, of course, you look suspect because Venezuela sits on the biggest sea of oil in Saudi Arabia. And Trump's always talking about, well, we should take the oil. So, yeah, Donald, you are a fucking murderer. Okay? Oh, yeah, sometimes I do slip of a little profanity. I'm not on the level. What did that guy say? Profanity is the refuge of the ignorant. Well, yeah, I mean, you can overdo anything, but I prefer to go along with what General Patton said. Sometimes you have to say things to make it stick in people's mind, right? So I'm asking ahead of time for tolerance on my hey man, look, I'm born and raised. I'm born and raised in Harlem, okay? Spent a bunch of years, well, the Army when I was a teenager, then the Navy. Okay, so I don't pussyfoot around, as George Wallace used to say. All right, and sometimes, in spite of my bullshit college degree, yeah, I get moved enough. Yeah, I will slip to profanity. But anyway, getting back to the point, yeah, this guy is running around murdering people. Um, he picks a drunk, and some people might resent me, for me saying that. Listen, anytime you gotta tell the United States Congress, yeah, if you make me Secretary of Defense, I'll stop drinking. What the hell is that? What have we come to as a nation? You know, But yeah, well, listen, man, I'm gonna stop mainlining heroin if you make, if you make me the Secretary of Defense, right? I'm going to stop abusing my wife if you make me the Secretary of Defense. I'm going to stop drinking if you make me the Secretary of Defense. What in the hell have we come to as a nation? I mean, I'm not even talking about the political differences. What kind of people have we allowed to assume positions of power? I think that's the question. And now getting back to the Reiners, did you read the bullshit that Trump had to say about Rob Reiner? He basically said that Rob Reiner was murdered because he said things that made people feel bad. Now, how in the hell, in the name of the Great White Fleet, how in the hell does a Donald Trump have the nerve and the audacity to come out of his mouth saying such a thing? I mean, to me, it's like incomprehensible. That is why I look at today's American Republican Party as a threat to democracy. Also as a threat to decency and good taste, quite frankly, because they support this idiot. And I just can't believe it. Now, I could even, stretch to the point, I could even say someone else. I could see someone else in politics. Um, well, actually, no, I can't. But the fact that Donald Trump, of all people, would say something like that, who has done more to damage and hurt the psyche of Americans than Donald Trump? This man has ridiculed black folks, Latino folks, Asian folks, Middle Eastern folks, working class white folks, and he has the nerve to utter those words out of his mouth. I mean, it's bizarre. It truly is. Hey, man, this is a guy doing one of his rallies. He stands up there and ridicules handicapped people. Can you dig it? Handicapped people. And he's going to talk about, well, yeah, he was killed because of the things that he said that hurt people. Who has hurt people more in the last, 15 years than Donald Trump? Please. And the Republicans in Congress, not all of them, but many of them, most of them, they're like trained seals. Oh, yeah. And he says that bullshit, and it's like water off a duck's back. That's why I say sometimes I left the Bronx, was it June? And I look across the ocean now, I can't recognize my country. I talk to Africans, I talk to Europeans, because one thing Winston Churchill said was true: Uganda is the pearl of Africa. And because of that, it kind of acts as a crossroad. So you got all kinds of people coming through here, Brits, Canadians, Americans, French, right? And Chinese in abundance. And they're like stunned. They're like somebody took a rock and slammed it upside the duck's head. They're in shock. What the hell's happened to your country? You know, everybody, for the last time, everybody knows America wasn't perfect, but we had a certain brand that was respected, even by folks that might not have agreed with our international politics. That's all shot to hell. And, they're wondering what the hell happened to, 75 million American people that they put this, I can't even call him a clown anymore, you know? This guy's a pedophile, or at the very least, he protects pedophiles. Come on, people. And then you have a five-time draft dodger. I was a great athlete in high school. But yeah, but five times, man, you ran away from the draft like a fucking duck with your ass on fire. I mean, come on. What have we done, America? And I will say this. Kamala Harris, she might not have been the best presidential candidate. Okay. And no one is perfect. But you ran away from her, you 75 million, like a house on fire, and you went to the probably will go down in history as the most despicable, insane idiot to ever sit in Jefferson's house. And that's saying a lot, okay? Because, I mean, we've had some duties in the White House. But I think Trump, he's right up there with, what's his name, Andrew Johnson. Um, I'm not going to give you odds on who wins the worst president in American history. But yeah, Trump is, he's pretty goddamn low. And that's what America did. And now the irony is that 75 million that voted for Trump, well, if you happen to be a dark person, well, they're taking away your relatives, okay, who are non-criminal. You've lost your health care. You've lost your health insurance, right? If you're in middle America, that means that Mima is going to be on your couch in the living room because no nursing home will be able to take her, right? I have, I'm looking and I see all these, not just black, but not just brown, but I see all these good, solid, white Americans in the heartland standing on food lines. I mean, there's more to it. All the people that voted for him and they lost their jobs now because of him. I mean, on and on. And I'm just asking. I mean, oh, and not to mention the fact that you might have a husband or a father or a son or a daughter or a significant other camped off the coast of Venezuela, getting ready to walk into a guerrilla war, which you don't even know why. I mean, folks, is that what you voted for? You went Republican. This is what they've given you. But again, I have a tendency to stray sometimes. You know, maybe I really am getting old. But going back to the minors, so Trump says that they're dead because they said things that hurt people. So I feel so badly about losing Rob Reiner and his wife. But I mean, it's just another thing that bugs me about this whole new Republican Party and Trump. There's like no sense of irony. Trump says that Rob and his old lady have been murdered because of the things that Rob said that hurt people. It doesn't occur to Donald about all the things that he has said and done that have hurt other people. Now, anybody, FBI, Justice Department who sees this, don't get your bowels in uproar. Okay, I I am not trying to say that, oh well, people should, you know treat Donald the same way that Rob Reiner was treated for saying the harsh and mean things. I ain't saying that. And as a matter of fact, I'll go even further. I want Donald. I know he don't look 79 right now. He looks like about 150. But I want him to live a good, a very long life, right? I truly do. I want him to be able to finish his what's it now, 3 years in the White House. I want him there. I want him alive because I want the law to take care of Donald Trump and his little elf hench people that have been hanging around him. Because I'm an American and I believe in the values and ideals of America. And in America, we deal with people through the law. This crazy bullshit about people being assassinated and hurt and threatened. No, 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 no. No, we can't have a democracy like that. And so that's why I say in terms of health and well-being, I have nothing but the best wishes for Donald Trump because I want him to stand in front of the bar of justice. And whatever happens to him, I want it to be done by the law, not because of vengeance, not because of political disagreement, but by law. That's the country that I fought for. That's the country that I serve. Okay? I think that's supposedly what we're supposed to learn in school in America. That we are not a nation ruled by men, but a nation ruled by law. So I wish the president good health. I wish him the best of health. And like I say, I believe in the justice system, no matter how badly that it has been ripped apart since January 2025. And I've also mentioned to Democrats that, if you're going to win this coming November, bear in mind that you got a job and a half to do. Because 2026, if the Democrats, as most pundits are predicting, will have a blue wave, okay? That will just be the first part. That will not be the victory. What that will be the, how should I say, that will be the beginning of having some serious work to do. 2028, that election, that will seal the deal. But Americans, Democrats, Americans, all of us, we're going to have to realize that we allowed, our Congress allowed Donald Trump to do catastrophic things to our institution, to the rule of law, okay? And, I'm 71 now. If I'm lucky, my old man, he made it to 95, right? So I don't know, will I be alive to see it? I really don't know. I won't bet on it at this point. But what I mean by that is that there's going to have to be so much work done because you're going to have to do two things at the same time. You're going to have to, number one, get a Congress in there that will stop the madness. And then number two, you're going to have to deal with the system, and you're going to have to, and it's going to have to require some changes. As a matter of fact, what you're going to have to do, I just thought about it, you're going to have to do an Abraham Lincoln. Remember the Gettysburg Address? What was that all about? Well, that was Lincoln talking about the basic roots of American democracy. And then he interjects the fact that you're going to have to change, right? There's, certain things we're going to have to change that maybe it wasn't present in the beginning, but from here on, this is what it's going to have to look like if we're going to succeed. See? And essentially, Democrats, progressives, independents, Republicans that still have some sanity left, going to have to get together, and we're going to have to do that exact same thing. Hey, history does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And any Democrat who's running for public office, you're going to have to keep that in mind, baby. Seriously. Because we are in sad shape in America. And some of the old mechanisms, they're not working. You got a Supreme Court that seems to be, I don't know, the majority seem to be enraptured by anything that, Trump says. Can't have that. Can't have that. You're going to have to basically get back to the law, and you're going to have to make the law fit to the circumstances that America is living under now. And that's going to be a tall task. I don't know if I'm going to live long enough to see it completed. And oddly enough, maybe it shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't be. I mean, good luck. Maybe if I live to be 105, maybe I shouldn't see the completion of it. Because the American story is a continuing story. It's an ongoing story. That was the greatest sin to me of the whole MAGA movement. Make America great again. We're all God's creatures, right? And I'm a guy, so I put it like this. All men, right, are fallible. We're not perfect. But if we got enough of our marbles, we learn as we grow. See? So as I said earlier, America has done some great, fantastic things. We have given some great things to the world. But we cannot turn our back on the times when we actually reach the depths of hate and depravity. Can't do that. Can't do that. You can't. What are you going to do? You're going to take a man, cut it in half, and say, well, I'm just going to have the good parts, the kindness, the humanity, right? The introspection. And the rest of that I'm just going to throw out. No, human beings ain't like that. And neither are countries. So this whole idea about make America great again, it was bullshit from the start. Because all you have to do is ask the question, great for who? Was it great for the Africans who you had as slaves? Was it great for women, right, who couldn't own property, right? Was it great for children who at 10, 11 years old were stuck down in some mine without the opportunity to go to school or to grow? I mean, that's just a few examples. Was it great for the white and black sharecroppers in Mississippi and Alabama? We're constantly taught to hate each other and to fight each other. I mean, what the hell was great about that? Was it great when you slaughtered indigenous people? No, of course not. For their land? No. I guess what I'm saying is that now, I hear all this bullshit about Christianity in America. And believe me, folks, that's exactly what it is, bullshit. I say this as a non-practicing Catholic. It's bullshit, okay? It's people trying to use religion for a political ploy. But if you're a real Christian, you're taught that humanity is fallible and that the name of the game is to always strive for something better. See? It's kind of like what Lincoln was talking about, right? When he said that America should be a beacon for freedom. Yeah, because people, they saw America as a place where they could strive to do better, to be better. So the whole idea about America, it has no meaning. To any half intelligent person, it has no meaning, right? But one of our bad qualities from our dark underside is this whole thing about the culture wars and race and all that. And I give Donald Trump credit because one thing he knows how, he used to know how to market himself, and he knows how to divide people. Now, I don't know about you, but when it comes time for me to finally cash in my chips, I don't want to face my maker. And he says, okay, well, what did you do? You were down there for 70, 80, 90, 100 years. What did you do while you were down there? I know I would not want to look at my creator and tell him, well, I divided people. I was great at dividing people. And I tell you, to tie into that, Trump has been talking lately about, well, I know I'm not going to get to heaven. Oh, really? Why? You think you're such a bad individual that you don't deserve to see glory at your demise? Well, apparently that's how he feels about himself. But what worries me about that is that if he feels that he's going to hell, I really worry that he wants to take the rest of the country, with him. That he wants to take America to the seventh level of hell. And when you look at what's happening with the healthcare situation in this country, when you look at the hunger situation in this country, to me, it seems that's exactly what he's trying to do. And now I'm stuck here. I'm trying to, at this late stage of my life, I'm trying to learn how to be a businessman. I had an idea. Okay, I had two ideas. I wanted to contact with my ancestral roots, and I wanted to see if I could do some kind of, I don't know, media thing over here. What the hell? Why not? Right? I mean, I served my country, and I said, well, I want to try and do something here. Maybe help people in Africa understand America, and vice versa. See, and I don't know. It's like what I'm looking at. Like I said earlier, what I'm seeing in America now, and try to explain it to people. You know, why does it seem like 75 Americans just decided to jump off a cliff? And I try to, give them the historical, social reasons, why this has happened. But I have an idea. I hope I can get back for the next election coming up. Either election, either 26 or 2028. And I'm trying to figure out how do I try to get across to my fellow white American citizens that this guy Trump, he don't give a good damn about you. He really doesn't. He don't give a good goddamn about somebody that looks like me either, right? And to be quite frank about it, he sees both you and me as garbage. What do you think of a man, and here we are, in America, a very bad economy, that he caused, and this is a guy never had to go grocery shopping. Um, I don't even, did he ever have to, how did he get his suits? I guess tailors would just come to his home, right? He has no idea of what Americans live like, the average American. Um, he doesn't understand how government works. Now, don't start jumping on me, you right-wing knuckleheads out there about, oh, well, you're just angry because he had money. No, no. I think in comparative times, I think Teddy Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt, they had much more money than the Trump family, if I'm not mistaken. Um, for that time period. But see, both of these guys, they made their bones. They went into the, state legislature. They held various positions, police commissioner, governor of New York, so on and so forth. So they knew what the deal was. Not to mention the fact that, I mean, it was a bullshit war, but it was a real war. Teddy Roosevelt was a war hero, which calls into mind another rich guy, JFK, right? Um, Congressman, United States Senator. In other words, they had an idea about how things worked. And because of the fact that they served in the military, Teddy and Jack, they had an idea about what the real average American was like. They had an understanding. FDR, he tried to run away to join cousin Teddy for the Spanish-American War, but he was like, what, 16? And his family caught him. But he was the secretary. He became the secretary of the Navy, governor of New York. He was, like I say, also a state assemblyman. And also, believe it or not, in my opinion, he married Eleanor Roosevelt. And because of his, leg condition, she was his eyes and ears, and extremely valuable. All right. Remember, Eleanor was the first lady that went down in the coal mines in West Virginia to talk to workers and what have you. And she was out there in the Pacific at the height of World War II, talking to average GI. See, Trump had none of that, right? He was a phony bullshit. What was it? Game show host, right? I think I only saw one and a half. The whole time he was on NBC, I think it was what? I saw, was it even one show? I never saw a whole show with Trump because I found it stupid, quite frankly. But no, he was not prepared to go into American politics. Especially, a guy that was a five-time draft dodger. Nah. That's why you're having so many issues now. You MAGA folks that are starving because you helped that clown get in the White House. Now, a billionaire telling me to tell my kids, well, just, you have to do without. Talk about words that hurt people. And this is what this is the bullshit that he says to his own supporters. So think about that. Think about what kind of ego, what kind of arrogance, what kind of evil does that encapsulate, right? That you're going to tell the people that they believed in you and you screwed them. And then you tell them, hey, you shouldn't worry about buying your kids a whole bunch of presents. Think about that now. Think about that. And you want to talk about Democrats being screwed up? Psst, yeah, right. Now, I got a whole bag of bones to pick with the Democratic Party. But I will tell you one thing, ain't no Democrat in public office will ever be stupid enough, you know, and arrogant enough to tell his voters, hey, man, you tell your kids you're going to have to do without, right? Especially if they are, well off, well to do, right? Now, that's one thing I will say on the side of the Democratic Party. That bullshit ain't happening, okay? But the Republican, you got this, well, I don't know, because he lies about his wealth all the time, but we do know he's like up there in the Bay somewhere. And this bastard's going to sit up there and tell his supporters, right? Don't buy him a whole bunch of pencils. Don't buy him a whole bunch of dolls for Christmas. What the hell is this? Sometimes I just want to look and, just ask America as a whole, have we lost our goddamn minds? You got somebody like that sitting in the White House? He don't give a damn about his own voters. Listen, I understand that a lot were played in the 24 election. A lot of that was, let's face it, this is America, okay? We got a history, okay? And I understand a lot of that is around race, ethnicity, so on and so forth. But god damn, man. Does it mean that much? Please explain to me how Kamala Harris could have been any worse than this monster that we have sitting up here now. Oh, and for you Palestinians up there in Michigan and Minnesota and what have you, that went for Trump, are you happy? Are you happy as Trump stands by and watches the Israeli government, not the Jewish people, the Israeli government? It's beyond genocide. It's like a whole slaughter. And Trump allowed that to happen. And that's what you voted for. Huh. It would appear that our food delivery is here. I promised my wife that we'd have KFC tonight. What we used to know in America as Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'll be damned. They tell me that there's a McDonald's in Uganda, but I haven't seen it yet. But I don't know. I don't really eat too much fast food anymore, which is probably why I have lost so much weight. Excuse me. But yeah, get back to what I was saying. So you folks that you went for Trump, by all means, take a look at what you brought upon yourself. Listen, as I sign off here, let me also express sympathy for the Jewish folks that were slaughtered in Australia by that madman. And I want to give a shout out to that Muslim brother that risked his life to stop the murder before it got in, it was bad enough as it is, but who knows how bad it could have gotten if that Muslim gentleman had not stepped in and attacked the perpetrator. Goodness and decency comes in all colors, all shapes, all religions, and all sizes. And I think that going forward, we need to remember that. Folks, I got a whole bunch of stuff to do, and I'm going to enjoy my KFC. So listen, until the next time, be good to each other, keep reading, stay woke, and be proud of American ideals. Take care. See you later. Peace.